Welcome to the Biscuits and Blurays podcast, where we watch Blu-rays, and the biscuit is fighting against the Blu-rays. It's a crossover. We're doing it that way. Biscuits versus Blu-rays. That's how this one's going to go. We have another special guest on this time. Hello, Mr. George.
Hello, how are you?
Not bad, mate. George, for anyone who doesn't know, is from TipsyFlix, and he came on to the podcast when the new legacy kicked off. You were our second guest on that season.
I was.
For Army of Darkness. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thank you.
We were just speaking beforehand, and we mentioned that was exactly a year ago, more or less. And then now this is going to be us for the rest of our lives.
This is now us annually discussing...
Bangers.
Yeah, bangers, nothing but bangers.
Well, we say nothing but bangers. You have picked... for my guests this season, I've let them choose whatever film they want to talk about. And you have a very broad spectrum of films that I think you would have talked about.
That's one way of putting it.
I would have thought I'd put money on you talking about 80 for Brady.
I mean, maybe next year.
but you've picked Alien versus Predator.
So you asked us for a guilty pleasure, and it's one that I remember just loving so much as a kid. And every time I revisit it, I end up having a blast with it. And it had been a while since I watched it, so I needed an excuse to watch it.
Oh, okay. So you're using me to rewatch.
I was 100% using you for a rewatch purpose.
Okay, so before we talk about Alien versus Predator, and we didn't do this last time, but this is how we do things on the podcast now. Your top 4 letterboxed movies.
I can tell you my top 4.
So this is how we can get a taste of the person you are, and we let people figure out their opinion on you from there.
So my top 4, in fact, quite fittingly, I think I put it in after we last did the podcast, but my 4th choice is Army of Darkness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it needed to go in. It's the one that I enjoy the most. I can always put that on. I think last time I watched it, I have watched it since we recorded the podcast. I think I've watched it twice since we recorded the podcast, actually. And every time it ends, I go, I could put that back on, like right now, and have a go with it. Mm-hmm. So Army of Darkness. Second pick is Videodrome, David Cronenberg's Videodrome.
Okay.
A film that I've always said is my favorite film of all time, because every time I watch it, I gain something new from it, and it's so ahead of its time. My third pick is The Room, Tommy Wiseau's The Room, which I believe have you just released that episode?
We have covered that on the podcast this season, yeah.
I have seen that in the cinema, to my count, 12 times.
Jesus.
And I could not put it on right now and watch it by myself, but to go and see that in the cinema with an audience, everyone throwing spoons, is an experience that I will never tire of. And then my number 1 pick, which has already come up on the episode already, 80 for Brady. It's an absolute joy of a film.
I haven't seen 80 for Brady, but I know your love for it, and you've recently presented it to be screened again. Is this right?
So it's a local cinema near me called Cultplex, in Manchester. If you've got any Mancunian listeners, they've started a new club called Cult Club, where you can pitch for what the next cult movie should be shown. And I pitched 80 for Brady, put all my love into that pitch, and people wanted to see what it was about. So we had a screening of 80 for Brady. Hopefully it won't be the last screening of 80 for Brady I get on. But we're not here to discuss 80 for Brady.
No, but what I will say
as much as I could go on about it all day.
Your passion for the films that you like, mate, is a reason this is your second episode on this podcast, and it's so great to have you back.
I mean, I'm ready to die on hills, I think is how I'd say it.
Well, I like the view from the bottom of the hill on this one, mate. Absolutely. It's nice waving at you from up there. But yes, Alien versus Predator.
Yep.
Now, we can't really discuss it without going in. We're talking a bit about those franchises separately.
We have to talk about the 2 franchises, don't we, really? And
yes.
How they can, yeah.
Obviously, Alien came first. Are you an Alien fan?
I am a massive Alien fan. I prefer Alien over Aliens, which I think can be a bit of a controversial opinion. I mean, I also have a soft spot for Alien 3, and I actually also kind of love Alien Resurrections. I think that film gets a worse rep than it deserves.
I think I agree with you, actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, so we've established we are a fan of Alien. That's good.
We are Alien
Xenomorphs,
fans.
quids in.
Yeah,
Are you a fan of the Predator franchise?
I am a big fan of. Well, the first two are the ones I'm familiar with. I've not really dabbled. I've seen Predators once, and I thought it was all right. And I've not seen. Was it just called Predator or The Predator?
Oh God, yeah, I forgot that film existed.
I've not even seen it.
It's
But
not great.
the original Predator movie is one of again. That's another movie I reckon I could watch and immediately as it ended, go. I could put that back on right now.
Hmm
Enjoy it. And
So, yeah, certified banger, absolutely.
yeah. And for the longest time, I've been a Predator 2 lover. What's the word I'm looking for? Like that film used to get a bad rep. I think it's now appreciated more.
Hmm
But I remember growing up, people had just dismissed Predator 2, but Predator 2 is great.
Okay, it's the Danny Glover one, right?
Yeah, it's the Danny Glover one, where
Okay,
it's almost
cool.
like a neo noir detective movie instead of the action horror. That the tonal shift from Predator to Predator 2 is incredible.
I do appreciate that these franchises do take a bit of a shift in tone for both their
Yeah.
sequels,
Oh,
which is
definitely.
yeah, because like Alien's a horror, then it's more of an action, whereas it's an action, then it's a mystery sort of. It's funny you should mention Predator 2 as one of your favorite ones for that franchise, though, because
Yeah.
if it wasn't for a certain Easter egg in that movie, we wouldn't have this
It
movie.
was a throwaway gag that I'm sure that no one involved knew what they were like, knew how much they were impacting at the time. But yeah, Danny Glover is a detective detecting some murders, which turns out is a predator. Spoiler alert. But when he finds the predator ship, he goes onto the ship and is looking around, and there's a load of trophies of the predators on the wall. So, like, we're talking human skulls, alien skulls, and there's a particular xenomorph skull just in the background on the wall of skulls. And they don't draw attention to it, it's just kind of there because it's bigger than all the other skulls. People obviously noticed it. People wanted it to happen. I think the first time it happened was fan comics. And then we got official comics of Alien versus Predator, and then eventually we got the movie.
Yeah. Well, we got a video game as well, and then yeah, we've got the
Oh,
movie.
did we get a video game first?
We had a SNES
Oh,
game, yeah.
yeah.
But it's weird to me that it just took that long
Okay.
from 1990 to I think this is 2004 this came out, Alien
2004.
vs Predator.
That's not that long, really. I mean, if you think about like this, that's pre-internet, really. So I
Yeah.
think now with things like that, the internet can kind of get things moving quicker. Whereas this would have been just like kind of talks in circles of of Alien fans and Predator fans, I guess. So
Yeah, and
um
it finally made its way to the head of 20th Century Fox.
yeah, I mean we were like, yeah, let's do it.
I mean, why not? The Alien films famously don't get better as they go on,
Yeah.
so why not take a risk with this one?
I mean, why not? They've got an existing fan base. If fans has wanted it, I think when was Alien Resurrection? Was it 97, 98?
97, yeah.
So yeah, about 7 years later. Yeah, probably looking to do something with one of their most popular franchises. I think it makes sense. Okay, this came out the year after Freddy versus Jason, right?
It's funny you should mention this. We need to talk about Freddy versus Jason for a little bit.
Yeah.
We hadn't had any like crossover movies for well, I don't think ever really.
I mean, I'm sure they happen. I can't think of any.
Maybe like Godzilla versus King Kong and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Kramer
But
versus Kramer.
I mean, if you want to go into it, yeah, sure, why not? Freddy versus Jason was a huge success. What are your opinions on that film? Just really quickly.
It's all right. I don't have the same like nostalgia maybe as I do with this one. Yeah, it's all right. I appreciate it for what it is.
I think what works in Freddy versus Jason's favor is that Freddy is a bit more of a comedic character at that point.
Sure.
Its tongue gets very much in its cheek.
Yep.
I don't think that translates over to this when it comes to the crossover.
I get that.
This is directed by Paul W.S. Anderson.
It
Are you a,
is.
are you a fan of his work?
I am a little bit of a fan of Paul W.S. Anderson.
Come on, mate. Okay.
Are you not a fan?
Okay, well, it's kind of come full circle for him at the time of this coming out because Event Horizon
I love
is
Event Horizon.
honestly, mate, me too. I think that's his strongest work.
Yeah.
It didn't get an R, well, it almost got an R rating, but it had to be cut down because of.
Oh, this is I could talk about this all day. They cut loads of it out and then they just deleted the footage. So there's
Mhm.
like remnants of this like R rating. There's like production stills of some of the gore and some of the set pieces and the makeup that they had, and it's just all lost. So out there, there's a in the never of time, there's an R-rated Event Horizon which we'll probably never see, which is such a shame.
That is his best work for sure. It's a shame it got cut to
100%.
it's a shame it got cut to pieces.
Yeah.
However, that is very much, I would argue, a love letter to Alien.
Yeah.
It's good that he finally got to make his Alien movie.
Yep.
It's just a shame he has to share it with Predator.
Okay. Yeah. I get that.
But
I think he did a great job.
okay. But obviously, Paul W.S. Anderson did Mortal Kombat, the very first Mortal Kombat movie. He did
Yep.
The Resident Evil franchise in its entirety.
Which I have things to say about later as well.
Okay. I don't think he has that edge of that a good director would have. I can't put my finger on
I
why.
I think he's not quite a director for hire. He's a bit better than that because he does have. You can see he's got a vision, and there's certain marks of his which but he's not quite an auteur. He's not. He's never going to be if you go to a film course and you're talking to everybody. What in fact, I think there's going to be very few people who have Paul W.S. Anderson movies as their top four. I think there's a very niche. It's he's not one of the greats. I think he's fine at what he does, and he's like in fact he's good at what he does. But yeah, he's never gonna be one of those things where people go like, "Oh, I love the new Paul W S Anderson movie's coming out." Like the trailer's just dropped. I mean, maybe one day.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think Mila Jovovich has probably got a few things to say.
Well, they're married, aren't they?
It's the only reason she keeps getting work. It's not the only reason, she's quite talented, but she's in a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter was the thing. I've just looked. I
I've
forgot that
I've, I've
existed.
still not I've still not seen it.
One thing I will say about this film that I do like, I think there are bits of this that I do like. I think when we were chatting about it before, I think I forgot how much I did like some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I do like the concept.
Yeah.
I think it's quite a genius concept.
I mean, they've you can tell time has been spent on how to get these two characters in the room together,
Hmm.
and they've not just gone, oh, they've just crash landed. They've built some lore around it. You can tell time has been put into coming up with why the predators and the aliens would be versus each other.
Yeah, duking it
Which,
out. Yeah. One thing we should stress about this, and I think that when people went to see it, they didn't really know that this was the case.
yeah,
This is not canon to any of the other franchises.
no, it exists in its own thing. I think I've always had this kind of like problem with like things being canon to each other because I mean even if you look at aliens, especially aliens and Prometheus, you can pick it apart of like how things don't match up, and it's just kind of like I love movies like this where they just go, yeah, this is just what it is. Enjoy it for what it is. It doesn't if you go in picking it apart to Alien to then you're not going to have a great time with it. You just enjoy these two monsters killing each other. So,
I was at school when this came out, and I remember everyone at school being like, "Okay, this is the coolest film that's ever existed."
I was one of those people. Yeah.
Yeah, but I hadn't. I didn't see it until I think I went to college. But being at school, everyone was like, "Yeah, it's a new Alien film, and it's gory and it's grotesque and it's scary." People described it as scary.
Yeah.
Do you think it is?
I mean, maybe when you're in high school in 2004, I watched it the other night, and I mean, you can see where there's a couple of jump scares and there's a couple of like moments that are meant to be scary, but it's not a horror film per se. It's more of an action thriller than it is a horror film. It's got horror elements, of course, because it's got aliens in it. The face huggers will always be creepy and get under my skin, but that's just the way they designed and move. So
I will say as well, I do like the passion that is behind it.
Mm.
I don't think it's going out of its way to upset anyone, but time has been taken to be respectful of some of the elements from the original movies. I think in terms of like jump scares and tone,
Yeah,
at the start of this, I think it is going for a more alien vibe than it is Predator.
definitely. Because it's they're trapped. The pyramid is the Nostradamus, basically. They're stuck on it. They can't get out and they're being stalked. So it is definitely going for more of an alien vibe than a Predator vibe. It's what if you remade the first Alien movie, but
Mhm.
there was also a Predator on board.
Yeah, it's interesting that it takes place on Earth, though.
Yeah, I guess it had to go one way or the other. All the Predator films are on Earth, all the Alien films are in space. So where like they had to, did they flip a coin?
Oh, so okay, so Predator has the home advantage, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, he's got the home advantage. But I mean, it's I'm what I was saying earlier about time has been put into getting these two like monsters in the same room. I think that just makes sense for the law. If they'd put it in space on a ship, then whose ship would it be? How have the humans got onto a predator ship, or how have the predators got onto it? It it gets. I think makes the human element of it grounded. It's they're
Hmm.
all coming to us. We're not in space going, oh, there's a beacon that we should go check out, and then they've already happened on the. I think it makes the film more organic setting it on Earth.
Yeah, I do agree. The tagline alone is just a reason to be joyful, I would argue. Do you
Not
remember the
Alien versus
tagline?
Predator.
Yeah, yeah.
Whoever wins,
We
whoever
lose.
wins, we lose.
Come on, mate. That's the coolest tagline I've ever heard.
It's as iconic as In Space No One Can Hear You Scream.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is just exactly the same in terms of like awesomeness. I think that is where my love for this film stops.
Okay,
Okay,
at the poster.
it stops at the tagline. I think that's a cool tagline, but I'm probably not going to tune into that. I watched it anyway. The humans in this, I think the Alien franchise and the Predator franchise, apart from the first one of each of their franchises, struggle in terms of humans that are quite likable. Yeah, are you a fan of
Thinking
how
now.
these human characters?
In this one,
Yeah.
uh, they're 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 just caricatures. But you've just ticked the boxes of the archetypes. Basically, you've got your strong female lead. You've got the guy who wants to be the hero. You've got your nerdy one. You've got your badass one. You've got the army one. Like they're all. It's just your usual fodder. It's your usual like slasher movie fodder. And so like, do I ultimately care about them? Not at all. What's his name? Ewan, is it Ewan
You and
Bremner?
Bremner, yeah.
Ewan Bremner is the only one because he's just constantly on about his kids, and so when he dies, I'm like, oh, they're orphans now. So, other than that,
I'm pretty sure they might still have a mother somewhere, mate.
oh, well, I hope. Do you know what? I hope so. But I mean, that's not a fun phone call they're going to receive, is it? And like,
That falls into the horror thing as well. So if in a horror film, when someone goes, "Oh, I've got a family at home or I've got kids at home, and I can't wait to see them again,"
you're dead.
yeah, don't get too attached.
Off the top of my head, I mean, you've got Wayland. I could tell you Wayland.
Okay,
Is there a Brooks?
I
Maybe
probably
there might be one of them
probably.
might be called Brooks.
Uh,
And other than that,
no, I don't
I'm
think there's a
looking now.
Brooks.
No, there's no Brooks. I don't know where I've got that from.
Well,
Um,
let's talk about the Bishop Wayland thing
yeah,
because that is a staple of the Alien movies.
yeah.
Why
So
include it? Why include it in here though?
he was probably just asked to reprise his role. He's obviously playing the human version of himself from Aliens, who was a an android based off his image. I
Hmm.
think it's a quick, easy way for fans of a franchise to go, oh well, this is your tech billionaire who's funding this whole thing. It's a recognizable face. It's easy to throw on the in the trailer, and everyone go, oh, it's the guy from. So that's probably why it was done more than you don't have to write a character if you
Yeah,
do it that way.
just copy and paste.
Yeah,
Alexa Woods is the main female character that we root behind here,
yeah,
played by Sana Lathan. She is quite an interesting character,
Yep,
but she comes out of this in the final girl role.
sure.
Are you happy to see her survive to the end?
Yeah, great. I mean, she's introduced exactly the same way that Tom Cruise is introduced in Mission Impossible 2. So she's taking a phone call up the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
So I'm immediately rooting for her. Yeah, she's the one they're definitely like leaning into be the new Sigourney Weaver character. And like she gets the badass lines and
Hmm.
yeah, she's definitely rootable. I couldn't tell you anything over about her character other than she's climbing a mountain at the beginning and
Hmm.
she gets the badass lines. I think she's there to be the safety person.
Uh-huh.
But all yeah, she's there to be the safety person and as far as climbing down a big hole. No one listens to her, so everyone dies. So vindication.
I think when we talked about Army of Darkness in our joint episode last year, we spoke about the fact that we are fans of practical effects.
Yeah.
And going into this, I think when I first watched it, I thought this was going to be a CGI mess.
Every time I go into it, I think I'm getting a CGI mess, and there is some CGI in it because you can't not at that era.
Hmm.
But there's so many practical effects in this that I think is one of the main reasons why I find myself enjoying it every time. There's a lot of models like you've got your xenomorphs, you've got your predators, the queen alien as well is a practical. Yeah, there's so much going on that it's hard to kind of not see the love that's being put into it
Mm.
with the practicals.
Apparently, and I found this out, but the Alien Queen in this movie was the biggest animatronic movie since Jurassic Park.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So time's been taken to pour love and affection in. And
Yeah.
also that it just looks better.
Yeah, it looks so because there's a couple of shots where like that queen is like running full pelt, and obviously they've done it CGI, and it you can tell it's CGI and it's dated now because it's early naughty CGI. But
Mhm.
when it's that animatronic, it looks amazing. It really looks great.
It was a different animatronic in terms that it wasn't so much a puppet, it was more a like a memory rig. And what I mean by that
Right.
is that if they would play about with it in rehearsal, because you've got to rehearse this sort of stuff, any movement is recorded onto a computer. And if there is a little bit of movement that they liked and thought would work in the film, they can just go to it.
They could just save it as like a preset. That's
Yes.
amazing.
So A for effort.
That's really cool.
And with the Predators as well, I think I do like see they're just people in suits, but they look cool.
They really do. Like they look really good. I mean, they've obviously been taken off from the original Predator design. What I love about it is there's like the first bit where the aliens and the predators kind of start battling, and you've got xenomorph blood just melting everything. And there's one predator that gets like a splash down his face on his
Mhm.
mask, and he's almost marked like Finn is in The Force Awakens. It's like I can tell him out now because he's the one with a cool like blood splash. And you're like, this is the main one. This is who we're following. And literally moments later, he's killed off. So kind of pulling the rug from under me there with marking one of them. But no, they all look great. They've all got like a little distinct design with the predators because all the masks are slightly different. The xenomorphs look amazing as well. And we've got the famous shot. I think it was used for the poster of them like squaring up face to face. Like that's the money shot, really. That's kind of how they sold this movie. But both of them are like gorgeous looking, like physical. Like I imagine the xenomorph's a puppet and your predator's a man in a mask, but it looks great. Like it really does.
When you went into it for the first time, who did you think would win?
That's a funny question. I kind of remember this whole like versus thing being a massive thing, and I think I had like a step brother. He was a bit older and like had probably seen it and probably lied to me about how everybody wins because he wanted to. But I don't remember like really when I watched it for the first time and who I thought would win. I don't know. Whoever wins, we lose. So
I went into this fully expecting Alien to win, but I can't tell if that's my love of the Alien franchise being stronger than my love for Predator, or the
Yeah.
fact that I can go, alien's more nimble. He's got acid for blood. He's got a
Yeah.
shank for a tail. So like I weighing it up, I think obviously the outcome of this is quite clever.
Yeah.
But I think this in every versus movie that I think, okay, who's going to win? And I'm always wrong.
I mean, it just makes sense, really. I mean, and it's easy to say that now, 20 years after the film came out, to say, well, of course the Predators would win. I've seen it however many times, and I think having the Predators as intelligent beings who are hunting, and the Xenomorphs are essentially a wild beast that have survival instincts that would take over the planet if the Predators didn't win. It kind of makes sense. I mean, yeah, the tagline, whoever wins, we lose, but humans did all right at the end of this. So, because Predators win. So, if aliens win, we lose. Predators, we're all right.
Yeah, we can work with them, sort of. Yeah.
We can work with the Predators. Like, if they're going to come down and just hunt a couple of us every now and then,
Uh-huh.
that's better than world domination, right?
I would argue so, yeah. It's the lesser of two evils, for sure.
The lesser of two evils, absolutely.
The plot of the movie, because they are bringing it down to Earth, what
Yep.
is the setting that we are in?
Which one are we at? Are we in the Antarctic?
I think North, yeah.
Whichever one it is, one of the cold bits. There's an expedition crew being assembled by Wayland because they've found a pyramid under the ice. It's got bits of like Egyptian and it's got bits of Aztec in there and Mayan, and they're like, who's built these things? We need to go down and have a look. So they get a team together to go and like check it out. Hilarity ensues.
I mean, that's it in a nutshell, really. Absolutely.
That's it.
I do like that it has gone for this more Aztec sort of sacrifice hunting ground vibe.
I think it's definitely garnered towards the predator aspect of it, but that's something that we'd never seen in the franchise before. That they are here for the hunt. I mean, it is kind of this idea that they are hunters and hunting for sport is definitely touched on in the first two Predator movies, but here it's saying that like humans worship them and would sacrifice themselves up to what's the word, like to farm the xenomorphs almost for them.
Mhm.
I think it's a really interesting angle that we get from for the Predators at least. Yeah, and it definitely works in its favor. And then it's a nice fun house setting for everything that happens as the walls move, so they're all trapped in this like labyrinth. Yeah, it's simple. It's away from the rest of humanity, so that's never really an issue because they're in the middle of nowhere, however many feet below the earth. So yeah, it definitely works organically.
There is a very interesting flashback that we do see of in the predators and the aliens in their heyday, like
Yeah,
basically going at each other like absolute beasts. And I would argue that is the best part of the movie.
it's definitely a bit of a movie that I remember more. There's the scene where there's millions of xenomorphs climbing up to get to the predators at the top of a pyramid before they set off their bomb.
Hmm.
And it's an image. It's definitely being created as an image that you can put in a trailer and sell the movie on.
I think you can get
Um,
it I think you can get it as a desktop wallpaper as well.
yeah, definitely could get that. I mean, there's xenomorphs everywhere. We love seeing xenomorphs. Yeah, it's again, it's iconic having them all climb up like a horde. So I think this film more than anything has iconography coming out of a wazoo, and they've gone to the effort to. So you've got like that. You've got when they're facing up. There's so many more moments where I think they've gone for like a money shot, which I think works in the film's favor.
Absolutely. One thing I will say, I think why I don't love this film that much is because it just I think with the alien and the predators, I think you do need to like that human element and
Sure.
have these people basically stuck in a hole. And I don't think this has quite got it. Bar from the main character and Ewan Bremner, who look at my kids. Like, I don't think it. Apart from those two, I think everyone else is basically it's a buffet for these
It is a
aliens.
buffet. There's
The
there's
pro-
one in particular I want to talk about. Colin Salmon.
Okay.
as Maxwell Stafford, who's probably the main like henchman, for lack of a better word. When they get down there, it turns out they've all got assault rifles that they didn't tell anybody else about.
Hmm.
So he's watchable, but he is also in Resident Evil that we were talking about.
He is, yeah.
And I noticed this time. Do you remember who he is in Resident Evil?
How could I forget? He's the guy who thinks he can outwit the laser bit in
Yep.
right.
And
Yeah, it happens to him again.
he gets killed pretty much the exact same way in this. He gets cubed, and I don't know if that was. I mean, it must have been intentional because it's Paul W. Anderson again. Must have gone like, I like cutting this guy up into cubes.
Look at his other acting work. I don't think that would have been his ending for when he starred in EastEnders for a little bit.
I hope it was. I don't watch EastEnders, but
Let's talk about the fight scenes themselves. Obviously, we do get a little bit of Alien versus Predator. Apart from the flashback, we get to see what happens with them. And how do you think it goes?
oh, I love watching them duke it out. There's a bit where a predator grabs a xenomorph by the tail and swings him round into a wall. That's great fun. The cubing thing, the net that
Mhm,
kind of wraps around him. There's a xenomorph who gets that wrapped around him, and it's cutting through, but then it makes him bleed, so that it melts straight through it. And then you've got another xenomorph with like this like cross pattern on its head, which
mhm,
looks really cool. Again, it's like more like it's just another cool image. The bit there's I think it happens twice where a xenomorph stabs a predator with the tail and then like lifts him up to his face to like proper like stare into his eyes
mhm.
where when his second mouth comes out. There's just so many cool moments like that. Like when the predators first rock up as well, and they're all invisible, and the humans have no idea what's going on because all the predator aliens start disappearing. I think that's what this movie is based on and is sold on, and the time and attention has been put the most into. Is it comes across as like the filmmakers are just playing with toys. Like they've got a xenomorph toy in one hand and they've got a predator toy in the other one, and they've gone, right, what could these two do to each other? And I think that's when the film is most watchable. Like when we were saying about the beginning, and like who these characters are, I could not tell you, other than you and Brenda, who's got his kids. I couldn't tell you like what they're there really to do, why I should care, what they were talking about, what their end goal is. But as soon, I honestly watching it this time, I was like, oh God, like, have I been wrong about this the whole time? Is it? But then as soon as the aliens and the predators rock up, I'm like, oh yeah, nah, this is why we're here. This is why we bought the ticket. This is why I
Uh,
love this movie. And it's a hell of a lot of fun.
I like how it follows the template for any other versus movie, where, like you said, it is just a director bashing two action figures together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the best way to go about it. And like just coming up with fun, creative things that they would do to each other.
What I will say is, I think that, I think this is a problem with the Resident Evil movies, the ones I've seen anyway, is
Yeah.
that it is too choppy, the fight scenes. There's never really time for you to. I think obviously when it's the Predator spinning the alien round, I think that's
Yeah.
quite a good shot. But when it's the hand-to-hand combat, like quite close up, the shots in it are maybe like a second long each, and you don't really get a sense of how this fight is actually working because there's like limbs going all over. Everyone's got
Yeah.
tail, you got dreadlocks here, there, and everywhere. It's kind of it's a little bit hard to follow.
Sure. I think that for me makes the moments where they have focused in resonate more with me.
Mhm,
Because there's quite a lot where it slows down. There's a bit where a chest burster bursts out at a predator's face, and
mhm.
he just takes it out of the air and just, like snaps it with one hand.
Yeah.
And so like there's so many moments like that which I remember vividly. Yeah, but like the choppy action when it is being a bit all over the place doesn't bother me as much.
Okay, that's fine. I remember seeing the chest burster scene in Alien first and loving it. I thought that's quite a really horrible way to go.
Oh
Uh,
God, yeah.
with it pushing through. And in the Romulus trailer we've just seen as well, you can see the impact it's sort of doing to the human body. Here, that chestburster scene is the one we do see anyway, is just not done well, I would
Yeah,
argue. Where it
it
sort of
just
comes at that lady and she seems to be like, oh, it looks like she's got a mild heartburn.
yeah.
And then we get the like she's screaming afterwards as well. It's like, no, like once it came out of John Hurt, he was done.
I think it's one of those things where it's almost at this point in the Alien franchise, it didn't have the weight, and there was no way to really put the weight back on it. Like the first time you see it happen, and we didn't know it was going to happen. Like famously in the first Alien, Ridley Scott didn't tell any of the other characters what was happening. They just
Mhm.
thought they were filming just a dialogue scene, and is it Ian Holm knew what was going to happen. No, yeah, Ian Holm knew what was going to happen, and John
Mhm.
Hurt kind of was rigged up for it, but didn't really know what was going to happen. So everyone's like shock is genuine shock and like fear. Whereas by the time you've got three sequels in and now this being the fourth, I think it's like it's kind of just been watered down with its impact. So in
Mhm.
here, it's not being used as a scare. It's kind of just it's something that they need to put in to kind of have happen, but you couldn't like this film. I think it would slow it down too much to have like a whole scene because she's like pinned up as well.
Mm.
It's gonna happen. It's happened. She's already dead.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
film does play like a greatest hits of both of those franchises.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with the best of.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. um, let's talk about the final fight. Well, the final
Yeah.
third,
The-
because we do have one character remaining, as you said. She's
yeah.
sort of been taken under the Predator's wing.
Yeah. Oh,
What I
she
do,
gets given the cool like xenomorph shield and the tail on a spike.
and I think that's quite
Badass.
interesting because she kills an alien. I think the
Yeah.
Predator doesn't see her as a match, but she kills an alien.
Yeah.
Therefore, she is an equal to the Predator.
Yeah.
And I think that is quite an interesting route to go down.
Yeah. I think he goes to like to walk away and then she like shouts after him. So there's this like really nice bonding moment where he's pulling this alien apart to like make her the shield and he demonstrates it with the blood that it doesn't melt and then makes her that spear with the tail. So then they're now kind of like in it together in the weirdest buddy up cinema's ever seen. No, it's definitely weirder. So they're now kind of like, let's go. And then he throws his bomb, doesn't he, into the and this is the one thing about this movie I will never understand.
Okay.
It was given PG-13, which means they get one F bomb
Hmm.
and he's doing his bomb on his wrist and he throws it in and she's like, "Oh, it's a bomb. I get that now." And she goes, "I hope it kills every last fucking one of them," or something like that. And it's cool. Right, there's your F bomb. Let's move on. And then, literally moments later, the alien with the cross on the cross on its face
Hmm.
from before. He's like being your big bad alien because he keeps coming at him, and they're fighting, and she gets like the shot on him and she goes, "You're one ugly mother," and then it cuts the air for it to shoot him.
Hmm.
And it's like, why would that not be your F bomb? Like it's an iconic line from Predator. You're reusing it on an alien, and yet you've cut the F bomb to use it as a throwaway line literally moments before. And every time I can't understand it because it would have been so much better to have that as your F bomb.
It would have been, I think, but you had to have the thing for the shot for the trailer. You are one ugly mother. Like
But you could just cut it in the trailer. Like
I know what you mean, and I'm sorry it didn't happen for you, mate. But
it's 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 definitely a choice that's been made.
uh-huh.
And I would love to speak to someone who made that choice and ask them why. Because
Hmm.
it just doesn't make sense. Because it's such a throwaway F bomb. Like the PG-13 F bomb, it should be utilized. And every time you get it, you use it to like bring weight to like one line. And it's just yeah.
I think maybe the filmmakers thought, okay, this character's been through essentially hell,
Yeah.
and if you are to like this character, for her to then go, I hope it kills every last fucking one of them, that is more impactful than having it said in a cheesy line maybe later in the film.
Yeah, sure.
However, I think even though she's the best of the lot, she's still not a strong character. So
Yeah.
I think you're right to be annoyed, absolutely. But I can see why they've done it because it would make sense for them to go, I hope it kills every last fucking one of them.
Yeah. She could have just said something else.
Okay, for anyone listening, George seems
I,
genuinely upset about this.
I had to find the line because I genuinely couldn't remember what it was.
Mhm.
And I had it here. Oh, it's a bomb. Well, I hope it kills every fucking one of them, is the line. And she doesn't even say last. You could easily go, it's a bomb. Well, I hope it kills every last one of them. And the line would have been exactly the same.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
she can call an alien an ugly motherfucker, like Arnie does.
In a different multiverse, mate, there is a
In
version of this film where that happens.
where that I'm happy with.
Yeah, absolutely. The alien queen rocks up
And then
eventually.
yeah, so they get out, they blow up all of them, they
Hmm.
blow up all the eggs, they blow up the pyramids, and then firing out the tunnel that they came out of. And it's dead cool because there's a massive explosion, and they're all like, "Ah, oh, sick, good job!" Like they're ready to shake hands and call it a day, aren't they? And then the queen just pops up out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and I think this for me is where the CGI is just too much. There are some nice practicals in it, but it's when the Queen's like stomping around. It's
Yeah.
pretty much all CGI, and it hasn't dated well in 20 years. The CGI from back then,
I
and
don't think it
it's meant
looks
to.
awful. I think
It
it still
doesn't look.
looks.
No, I've definitely seen worse CGI. Sorry,
Yeah.
but this should be your big finale, and I don't know. CGI was the way it was going back there, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's a fun ending.
It's a fun ending, but I do appreciate that if we had a finale for Aliens that was purely animatronic and it was spectacular, the finale for
Yeah,
Aliens, then why
yeah,
couldn't that be just done again?
sure. I mean, probably money,
Yeah, it could be money,
really.
yeah. It's quite a spectacular fight though. I think
Yeah,
it's good to finally get a good sense of scale on the Alien Queen
yeah.
because she's massive, basically.
She is pretty big.
She's a big old queen.
She's a big gal.
But I just like seeing that alien queen. I like, I'm glad she was included.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. But also, it kind of gives the idea that this is like now. This is it. This is the final show because either the wins and it's gonna lay more eggs and that's it for Earth,
Hmm.
or it's these two win and save the planet basically.
Yeah.
So it does give us because it's out of the pyramid now. They're in the open. It, there's a couple of moments in this film and like, the setting maybe being a main one that remind me of John Carpenter's The Thing, but it's very much like it's happening here away from everyone else. But yeah, once this fight's over,
Yeah.
it's very much it for humanity if it doesn't go well.
There's still a lot at stake. I was going to make a note actually, maybe place a bet at how long it would take us to finally mention the thing because of the setting of this one and the fact that aliens and predators are involved or whatever.
Yeah, it took longer than I thought it would, to be honest.
I honestly, me too. I thought straight off the bat we were going to go, right, the thing was great, wasn't it? Let's talk about this
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. Let's talk about The Thing instead.
I do quite also like the surprise at the end
Oh, just
where
before we get onto the surprise at the end, how the actual fight ends. So they tie the queen to is like a water tower and push her
into the sea, yeah.
into the sea, and yeah, see you later. But the predator dies in the process of it.
Hmm.
But before they had the big fight, he marks her up with the alien blood as like on her face, as a like she's now like she's proved herself as a warrior. And then almost like they've been watching the whole thing, a massive ship full of predators rocks up and goes, I will be taking this dead guy then. Like they could have helped at any point, but didn't. But as it's flying off and she's now left by herself with this scar, like very prominent scar on her face, I couldn't help but think this time, like, no one, absolutely not, is going to believe that story. Like she's the person in the pub, like in a few years, and like she's sat at the bar and you're talking to her, she's like, "Oh, you want to know how I got this sky?" You're like, "Go on, man. Like, what'd you do?
Yeah.
Accident at work, was it?" Like, no, I went to the Arctic and we're in this pyramid and it was moving around and there was these aliens and then you're like, "Yeah, okay, love." Like,
Yeah, the sequel for this should have ended up a bit more like Cuckoo's Nest in the fact that
yeah,
she's locked up and she's like, "Oh, I fought an alien."
yeah.
It's like, "Oh, did you? Okay,
No, did you? Yeah, well, good for
yeah.
you.
Here's your tablets. Drink your
Yeah.
water." Yeah,
So yeah, they just leave her in the middle of the Arctic. So whether or not she gets back or not, sure,
well,
she's fine.
she's got no. Sure, she's fine. She can fight aliens and predators, but not the
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah. Well, they give her a big spear, and I'd be like, thanks for the big spear. Like, any chance of a lift, though? Like,
Yeah,
if you go in that way.
or if not, just like a jacket or something. You know?
But yeah, that's pretty much it. But we do get to have a look on the Predator ship, don't we?
Yes, we do, because we get the predators leaving Earth, which is all well and good. The
Yeah,
predator we've spent a lot of time with laid out. That's kind of sad because you kind of feel for him a little bit. But
a little
then,
bit.
but then suddenly you hear the familiar sounds of a chest burster bursting through,
Yeah,
and yep, that is the case. Well, he's done for this world. He's
yeah,
already dead, but the alien bursts out, but not quite. It's a bit different.
because it's got its little predator mouth. It's like a baby xenomorph with and it does its little like into the camera, and that's it.
That
Setting
is.
up what could have been an amazing sequel.
It should have been an amazing sequel. I think you're right. The problem for the sequel, I think the sequel is a lot worse than this. And any
Yeah,
hard feelings I have over this film are completely overshadowed by my hate for Alien versus
it's
Predators.
absolutely terrible.
At least you can see what's happening in this one.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, yeah,
That's another podcast in itself. But I do like that the aliens sort of get DNA from whatever they are impregnated into.
well, because there's Alien 3.
Yeah.
There's two different cuts, and I can't remember which one it is. I think the director's cut, they're just straight xenomorphs. But the original plan was that it got a dog,
Yes.
and so it was kind of like a dog xenomorph, so on all fours as opposed to stood upright. So there was kind of always that. I can't remember which cut and which one. It's been a while since I've seen it either way. But yeah, there was this idea that it's a slightly different beast depending on. So the xenomorphs we know and love are like human
Mhm.
hybrids. But yeah, the predator one, like it's so cool. And then like everyone's thinking like, oh, I wonder what that looks like when it grows up. And then they delivered on it, but barely.
Yeah, you could probably Google that image right now and think, yeah, okay, I've
And
seen
then
it.
I get more out of that than that trash movie would ever give you. But
But that's how this movie plays out. I've got two questions for you now.
yeah,
Because I am who I am. My first question is this better than Space Jam?
after watching it recently, I said that I would say it's better than Space Jam. I think sat here now, I would say it's as good as Space Jam. Of your definition of what a film better is, like why Space Jam? I think it is a movie you could just put on and kind of enjoy the background. And I have as much fun with this as I think you have with Space Jam. And I love it as that, and it's got the same nostalgia that I think comes with for me that comes with Space Jam. So yeah, I'm gonna say as good as Space Jam.
I would agree with you. I think with Space Jam, I think there are elements that don't work, but there's so much good stuff in there that I
Yeah,
think really elevates it to a mediocre level.
yeah,
And this is the same.
yeah,
The stuff that's good is good. It's just a shame the ball was dropped slightly at the start. The middle section is quite really genuinely quite watchable.
as I say, I think I struggle to tell you what happens in the first 15, 20 minutes of this movie. But that's absolutely fine because I'm putting it on and then I'm making snacks. I'm not making snacks and then putting it on. So
Mhm.
you kind of just get through that first bit and then yeah, let the fun happen.
And my second question to you is, George, because you are Tipsy Flix, essentially your brand is matching a movie with a
Oh yeah.
certain alcoholic beverage.
We
Have you picked one to
I have
go
got a
with it?
pairing. I've gone for Phantom Brewing's UFOMG, which is a hybrid, if you will, of two acronyms.
Hmm.
Um, it is an IPA. It's quite a strong IPA, 7%. Yeah, it was. I drank it with a movie. It was a little bit fruity, but it was very heavy and like had those like oaty, like creamy feelings. It was a fun, strong beer for a fun movie. um, yeah, you can pick that up from Phantom Brewing off their website. Definitely worth checking out. So yeah, I completely forgot I had a
That's
beer.
that's your brand of thing. So I'm glad
And
to.
I just completely forgot. I was too invested in talking about Alien versus Predator. I'm actually wearing my Alien versus Predator t-shirt right now.
Yeah, I did notice it.
Yeah.
George, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast
Oh,
again.
thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure having you on, mate. And we'll probably see you in a year or so.
I hope so. We'll try and figure out Zoom and think of another hill for me to die on.
But thank you for listening, guys, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.